It's one of the questions we all have, right? Like, why do some people have a lot of resources and other people don't? Why are some countries so much more wealthy than other countries? And there's no easy answer to those kinds of questions. And it's almost always a mix of things that people do to themselves and things that countries do to themselves, and then things that other countries do, and then chance, just random experiences. Those of you who have family members who just happen to be born into a family with more resources are probably going to end up with more resources than those of you who are born into a family with less resources. That's just kind of how it is. Things can change, but they don't change that much. And I know that there's a belief here in the United States in particular of what we talk about as achievement ideology, that if you work really hard, you'll get ahead and so on. Or in this particular case, we're going to just talk briefly about countries today. If you have a country of people, they work really hard, they'll get ahead. But that's only a small part of it. And sometimes it's the only part of it. There's a lot of people in here. Like here, that all of you, if you all work really, really, really hard, some of you are still going to get further ahead. It's just there's so much chance involved. But one of the things that I experience is how people in wealthier countries try to make sense of the existence of people in poorer countries. And it's always a lot easier if you put blame onto other people. Let me just ask you this question. Let me just start breaking into the ideology bit. What percentage of that budget do we spend on non-military foreign aid? So what we're talking about is, refugees and housing. What do you think? 10. Dude, 15? These are numbers from 2015. You can see that the U.S. is the most generous nation in terms of giving money in non-military foreign aid. Then we got Germany, and look down here. So it's a lot of money. And then if we look at the percentage of international aid rankings, so what percentage of our GDP do we give? So that $4 trillion? Well, Norway is a little over 1%. Look at Luxembourg, Sweden, the Scandinavian countries are all up there. We come down. And then here's the United States, less than 0.5%. And this target is 0.7. So if we look at this and we say, okay, so the question then becomes, are we the most generous? It's like yes and no. In terms of the absolute money we give, we're the most generous, but not in terms of the percentage of what we could give. Let me put this out there to you, right? If I said, hey, class, we're collecting money for, a project, and I want everyone to chip in, you got two options, right? One, you can just chip in $10, or you can chip in as appropriate to the income that your family makes if you receive benefits from that income. And so if some people in your class have parents that make $10 million a year, and you have parents that make $25,000 a year, and you were giving $10, you had to give $10, and they, with $10 million, also gave $5 or $10, the same amount as you, how would you feel about that? So okay, that's good. Is it fair? Would you feel like it's fair? And if you feel like it wouldn't be fair, then you would probably also say, well, let's look at some of these countries. Look at Ireland, Spain. Look, Spain's gone through this amazing economic crunch. So Americans, the average answer that Americans give when we ask what percentage of our GDP is going to non-military foreign aid, the average answer that Americans give is 26%, when it's 0.3%. Meaning that Americans are sitting back, we're sitting back in our world feeling really good about the fact that we're helping a lot of countries and a lot of places, and having this sense that, hey, 26% of our budget, wild overestimation of what it is. And what that does is that helps us, I guess, sleep at night. It helps us do any number of things. It's one of those thought experiments, right? When you look at all these places where we give money, the significant portion of the money that we give is aid that is tied. And it's tied to some other demand or some other concern. Meaning that, hey, if we're going to go build a refugee camp, we don't just give the money to the Sudanese to build a refugee camp. Okay, we'll build the camp. So we take American tax dollars, which would be your money, and we give that to American companies to go do something with it in some other part of the world. Or we're going to go send $500 million worth of food to Bangladesh. So first off, we take the amount of money we need to buy the food from American farmers, which we do. Then we pay American companies to take the food to a port. And then we pay an American shipping company to orchestrate getting that food from that port over to Bangladesh. And then we pay another company, American company, to administer the distribution of the food. And then we give the food to the Bangladeshis. So when you see, hey, we gave $500 million to Bangladesh, maybe we actually gave $20 million to Bangladesh. And what we did was we gave $480 million back to Americans who work in this particular area. So a lesson in what we do and how we do it in other parts of the world needs to include these other kinds of considerations, which is like, most of you, this doesn't mean anything because you don't have experience. You haven't been seen the impact. Most of you haven't walked through a refugee camp. But part of what makes a good society is having an educated society. And part of having an educated society is understanding things like this, so that when we have these kinds of conversations in the world about what's happening and what's going on, then we can talk about it thoughtfully.